The summer of 2001 was shaping up to be one of Yellowstone National Park's busiest seasons on record. Nearly 3 million visitors were expected to explore America's first national park, drawn by its legendary geysers, pristine wilderness, and abundant wildlife. Among the countless families making their pilgrimage to this natural wonderland were the Andersons from Denver, Colorado, a close-knit family of 4 who had been planning their Yellowstone adventure for over a year. They had no idea that their dream vacation would become one of the most baffling missing persons cases in National Park Service history. Robert Anderson, 42 years old, was a successful software engineer at a technology firm in downtown Denver. A methodical man with a passion for the outdoors, he had been camping and hiking since his Boy Scout days in Montana. His colleagues described him as meticulous and safety-conscious, someone who always researched his destinations thoroughly and prepared for every contingency. His wife, Lisa Anderson, 39 years old, worked as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital Colorado and shared her husband's love for nature. She was known for her warm smile, infectious laugh, and unwavering dedication to both her patients and her family. Their children, twin daughters Sarah and Jessica, were both 14 years old and entering their freshman year at Cherry Creek High School. Despite being identical twins, they had distinctly different personalities. Sarah was the adventurous one, always eager to explore new trails and photograph wildlife with her new digital camera, a birthday gift from her parents. Jessica was more cautious and studious, preferring to sketch the landscapes they encountered and research the geological features they planned to visit. Both girls were honor students and active in their school's environmental club, making Yellowstone their ideal family destination. The Anderson family had spent months planning their trip. Robert had obtained all necessary permits, reserved their campsite at the Madison campground for 5 nights, and mapped out hiking routes suitable for the entire family. Lisa had prepared a detailed first aid kit and researched the park's safety guidelines extensively. The twins had read every book about Yellowstone they could find in the library and had created a shared journal where they planned to document their adventures together. On Saturday, August 4th, 2001, the family loaded their red Ford Explorer with camping gear, hiking equipment, and enough supplies for a week-long adventure. Their neighbors, the Johnsons, watched them drive away with waves and promises to share photos when they returned. The family's golden retriever, Max, had been left with Lisa's parents, much to the girls' disappointment. But Robert had insisted that bringing a dog to Yellowstone would be too complicated and potentially dangerous for the wildlife. The drive from Denver to Yellowstone took approximately 7 hours, with the family stopping for lunch in Jackson, Wyoming. Gas station security cameras captured their last confirmed sighting before entering the park. All 4 family members appeared happy and excited as they purchased snacks and filled up their vehicle. Sarah was wearing her favorite purple hiking boots, while Jessica carried a new field notebook she'd bought specifically for the trip. They entered Yellowstone through the south entrance on Sunday afternoon, August 5th, and proceeded directly to Madison Campground, where they checked in with the camp host. Rangers later confirmed that the family had arrived at campsite number 47 around 3:30 in the afternoon. Fellow campers remembered seeing them set up their large blue tent and organize their campsite with characteristic efficiency. The family seemed well prepared and in good spirits, with the twins helping their parents arrange their gear while chattering excitedly about the geysers they planned to visit. Sunday evening passed without incident. The Andersons prepared dinner on their camp stove and were observed by other campers sitting around their picnic table, playing card games by lantern light. They appeared to be having a wonderful time, with frequent laughter echoing from their campsite. Around 9 o'clock, as darkness settled over the campground, the family retired to their tent for the night. Se você gosta de mistérios reais como este, se inscreva no canal e ative o sininho para não perder nenhum caso. Monday morning, August 6th, marked the beginning of what should have been their first full day of exploration. The family had planned to visit Old Faithful and several other thermal features in the Upper Geyser Basin. According to their written itinerary, which Robert had shared with the camp host as a safety precaution, they intended to start early to avoid crowds and return to camp by late afternoon. Fellow campers reported seeing the family preparing breakfast around 7 in the morning. Robert was observed checking his GPS device and reviewing maps, while Lisa packed a substantial lunch for their day trip. The twins were excited, with Sarah testing her camera settings and Jessica reviewing her guidebook one final time. They appeared to be following their methodical approach to outdoor adventures, double-checking their gear and discussing their planned route. The family left their campsite around 8:15 in the morning, driving their Ford Explorer toward the Upper Geyser Basin. The camp host, Janet Miller, a seasonal employee who had been working at Madison Campground for 6 years, specifically remembered them because of their enthusiastic preparation and the twins' infectious excitement. They were the kind of family that made this job worthwhile, she later told investigators. Well-prepared, respectful of nature, and genuinely thrilled to be here. That was the last confirmed sighting of the Anderson family. They never reached Old Faithful, never visited any of the planned thermal features, and never returned to their campsite. Their carefully planned day trip had somehow led them into complete oblivion. When the family failed to return to Madison Campground by Tuesday morning, Janet Miller became concerned. The Andersons had told her they would be back Monday evening and had even discussed Tuesday's hiking plans. Their tent and all their belongings remained untouched at the campsite, and their absence was completely out of character for such a well-organized family. Miller contacted the Yellowstone Law Enforcement Office at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, August 7th. Chief Ranger Patricia Williams, a 20-year veteran of the National Park Service with extensive experience in search and rescue operations, immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. In her experience, when an entire family disappeared without a trace in Yellowstone, it usually meant something catastrophic had occurred. The initial search focused on the family's planned route to Old Faithful. Rangers quickly discovered that the Andersons' Ford Explorer was not in any of the parking areas around the Upper Geyser Basin, nor had any visitors or employees recalled seeing the distinctive red SUV or the family of 4. Park entrance and exit stations were contacted, but there was no record of the vehicle leaving the park through any of the main gates. Within hours, a full-scale search and rescue operation was launched. Yellowstone's search and rescue team, considered among the best in the National Park Service, deployed all available resources. Helicopters began aerial searches of the family's planned route and surrounding wilderness areas. Ground teams with trained search dogs started combing the vast network of trails and thermal features that the family might have visited. The search was complicated by Yellowstone's immense size, over 2 million acres of rugged wilderness, much of it inaccessible by vehicle. The park contained thousands of thermal features, numerous wildlife hazards, and countless places where a family could encounter trouble. Chief Ranger Williams coordinated search efforts across multiple zones, hoping to find some trace of the missing family before the situation became even more dire. On Wednesday, the third day of searching, teams made their first significant discovery. The Andersons' red Ford Explorer was found abandoned in a remote parking area near Ferry Falls, approximately 12 miles from their intended destination at Old Faithful. The location was puzzling. The parking area served a moderately difficult hiking trail that was not on the family's original itinerary and seemed beyond the skill level they had indicated when planning their trip. The vehicle was unlocked, with the keys still in the ignition. All of the family's day hiking gear was missing, including their backpacks, water bottles, and camera equipment. However, Robert's wallet remained in the car with all credit cards and identification intact, and Lisa's purse was found under the passenger seat. Most troubling was the discovery of the girls' cell phones in the back seat, both fully charged but without any recent calls or messages that might explain their deviation from the planned route. The area around Ferry Falls became the new focus of the search effort. The trail led to a spectacular 200-foot waterfall through moderately challenging terrain that included river crossings and steep sections. While not exceptionally dangerous for experienced hikers, it was certainly more difficult than the thermal features the family had originally planned to visit. Rangers and volunteers began an intensive grid search of the entire trail system and surrounding wilderness. The search expanded to include thermal imaging from aircraft, which could detect body heat even in dense forest cover. Bloodhounds were brought in from Montana to track any scent trails from the abandoned vehicle. Local volunteers, many of them experienced outdoorsmen familiar with Yellowstone's terrain, joined the professional search teams. The operation grew to include over 200 people, making it one of the largest search efforts in the park's recent history. Despite the massive effort, no trace of the Anderson family was found. The search teams discovered no clothing, no equipment, no signs of struggle, and no indication of where the family might have gone after leaving their vehicle. It was as if they had simply vanished into the vast Yellowstone wilderness without leaving any evidence of their passage. After 2 weeks of intensive searching, the active rescue operation was suspended. The case was reclassified from search and rescue to a missing persons investigation. Federal investigators joined local rangers in trying to piece together what might have happened to the family. Every aspect of their lives was examined for clues. their financial records, personal relationships, recent activities, and any potential reasons they might have disappeared voluntarily. The investigation revealed no red flags in the Anderson family's background. Robert's business was successful and stable, with no financial problems or professional conflicts. Lisa was beloved by colleagues and patients alike, with no personal issues that might have prompted a sudden departure. The twins were excellent students with strong friendships and no behavioral problems. There was absolutely nothing in their past to suggest they would deliberately vanish. Robert's brother, Michael Anderson, flew in from Seattle to coordinate with investigators and maintain hope for the family's survival. He established a reward fund and worked with media outlets to keep the story in the public eye. "Rob was the most responsible person I knew," Michael told reporters. "He wouldn't have taken unnecessary risks with his family. Something terrible happened out there, and we need to find out what." The case attracted national attention, with the story appearing on major television networks and in newspapers across the country. The image of the smiling family at a gas station became iconic, representing every parent's worst nightmare about family vacations gone wrong. Tips poured in from across the nation, but none led to any concrete evidence about the family's whereabouts. Theories about the disappearance ranged from the plausible to the fantastic. Some suggested the family had encountered wildlife, grizzly bears or mountain lions that might have attacked them on the trail. Others theorized about thermal features, proposing that the family might have fallen into hot springs or unstable ground near geysers. More exotic theories involved everything from alien abduction to secret government facilities. The wildlife theory was extensively investigated. Yellowstone is home to both grizzly bears and black bears, and attacks, while rare, do occur. However, bear attacks typically leave substantial evidence: scattered equipment, torn clothing, or other signs of struggle. The complete absence of any such evidence made a bear attack unlikely. Additionally, the park's bears were monitored by wildlife biologists, and there had been no reports of unusual bear activity in the Fairy Falls area during that time period. The thermal features theory was also carefully examined. Yellowstone contains over 10,000 hot springs, geysers, and other thermal features, some of which can be deadly. People have died after falling into or stepping through unstable ground around these features. However, the Fairy Falls Trail was well established and regularly maintained, with known thermal hazards clearly marked and protected. A family as safety-conscious as the Andersons would have been unlikely to venture off established trails into dangerous thermal areas. As months turned into years, the Anderson case joined the unfortunate roster of Yellowstone's unsolved mysteries. The park had seen other disappearances over its long history, but few as complete and baffling as the vanishing of an entire family. Their campsite remained reserved in the park's computer system for weeks after their disappearance, a digital monument to a family vacation that had gone horribly wrong. Lisa's colleagues at Children's Hospital organized memorial services and established a scholarship fund in the family's name. Robert's company created a foundation focused on outdoor safety education. The twins' classmates planted a memorial garden at their high school, hoping their friends would somehow return to see it. But as years passed, hope faded into acceptance of an inexplicable loss. The case was periodically reopened as new search technologies became available. Ground-penetrating radar was used to search for burial sites around the Fairy Falls area. Satellite imagery was analyzed for any anomalies that might indicate human activity. Cold case investigators from the FBI reviewed all evidence with fresh perspectives. Each effort yielded new theories, but no new evidence. Seasonal rangers at Yellowstone kept the case file active, briefing new employees about the missing family and asking them to remain alert for any evidence that might surface. The park's vast wilderness occasionally revealed the remains of long-lost hikers, sometimes decades after their disappearance. There was always hope that the Anderson family might eventually be found, bringing closure to one of the park's most enduring mysteries. Michael Anderson never stopped searching for his brother's family. He made annual trips to Yellowstone, hiking the trails and speaking with rangers about any new developments. He maintained the reward fund and updated missing persons databases with the latest information. His dedication was both inspiring and heartbreaking, a brother's refusal to abandon hope in the face of an impossible situation. The years rolled by. 2005, 2010, 2015. New families came to Yellowstone, creating their own memories and occasionally learning about the Anderson family's mysterious disappearance. The case became part of Yellowstone folklore, a cautionary tale told around campfires and a reminder of the park's inherent dangers despite its spectacular beauty. In 2017, 16 years after the family's disappearance, Yellowstone National Park underwent a comprehensive trail maintenance and improvement project. The initiative was designed to enhance visitor safety and update aging infrastructure throughout the park's extensive trail system. As part of this project, maintenance crews were assigned to survey and repair remote sections of trails that received less frequent attention. Among the rangers assigned to this project was Thomas Mitchell, a 38-year-old seasonal ranger who had been working in Yellowstone for 8 summers. Mitchell was known for his meticulous attention to detail and his deep knowledge of the park's more remote areas. He had joined the National Park Service after a career in the military, bringing discipline and thoroughness to his work that made him invaluable for detailed survey projects. On a crisp September morning in 2017, Mitchell was conducting a routine survey of a little-used maintenance trail that branched off from the main Fairy Falls hiking route. The trail was primarily used by park maintenance crews to access remote areas for wildlife monitoring and environmental research. It was unmarked on visitor maps and officially closed to public access, hidden behind warning signs that most visitors respected. As Mitchell hiked along the maintenance trail, he noted various items in his survey log: trail condition, erosion patterns, vegetation encroachment, and wildlife signs. He was approximately 2 miles from the main trail when he noticed something unusual partially concealed in a dense thicket of lodgepole pines. The object appeared to be artificial, definitely not part of the natural landscape. Investigating further, Mitchell discovered what appeared to be a child's purple hiking boot, weathered by 16 years of exposure to Yellowstone's harsh elements, but still recognizable. His heart began racing as he remembered the case briefings about the Anderson family. Sarah Anderson had been wearing purple hiking boots when she disappeared, a detail that had been widely publicized in missing persons reports. Mitchell immediately secured the area and contacted his supervisor via radio. Within hours, a team of investigators, forensic specialists, and search and rescue personnel had assembled at the remote location. What they found in the surrounding area would finally provide answers to the 16-year-old mystery. But those answers would prove more disturbing than anyone had imagined. A careful search of the area revealed additional evidence scattered throughout the dense vegetation. Fragments of clothing consistent with what the Anderson family had been wearing, pieces of camping equipment including a distinctive camera strap that matched Robert's photography gear, and most conclusively, human remains that would later be identified through dental records as belonging to all 4 family members. But the location and condition of these remains raised more questions than they answered. The site was approximately 3 miles from where the family's vehicle had been found, in an area so remote and difficult to access that it was virtually impossible the family could have reached it through normal hiking. The terrain between the Fairy Falls parking area and the discovery site included several dangerous river crossings, steep rocky sections, and dense forest that would have been nearly impassable for a family with teenage children. More disturbing was the arrangement of the remains and personal effects. They were not scattered randomly as would be expected from a family that had become lost and died of exposure. Instead, they appeared to have been deliberately placed in the remote location, hidden from view and protected from scavengers by the dense vegetation. Some items showed signs of having been buried and then partially excavated by natural processes over the years. The discovery transformed the Anderson case from a missing persons investigation into a homicide inquiry. FBI agents specializing in violent crimes joined the investigation, bringing federal resources and expertise to bear on what was now clearly a multiple murder case. The remote location, the deliberate concealment of evidence, and the family's deviation from their planned route all pointed to foul play. Forensic analysis of the remains and evidence would take months to complete. The investigation expanded to include a comprehensive review of everyone who had been in or around Yellowstone National Park during the time of the family's disappearance. Park employees, contractors, visitors, and anyone with access to the remote areas where the family was found became potential suspects or witnesses. The forensic analysis revealed disturbing details about the family's final hours. Dr. Patricia Hayes, the chief forensic pathologist assigned to the case, determined that all 4 family members had died from blunt force trauma to the head, inflicted by what appeared to be a heavy, blunt instrument such as a rock or camping tool. The injuries were consistent with a violent attack rather than an accident, confirming that the family had been murdered. Most chilling was the timeline that forensic evidence suggested. The condition of the remains and personal effects indicated that the family had survived for some time after their initial disappearance, possibly several days. Evidence of makeshift shelter construction and food consumption in the remote area suggested they had been held captive before being killed. The implications were horrifying. The Anderson family had been kidnapped, held in the wilderness, and ultimately murdered by someone who knew the park's remote areas well enough to hide their crimes. FBI Special Agent Diana Rodriguez, who led the federal investigation, described the case as one of the most complex she had encountered in 20 years of law enforcement. "We're dealing with a perpetrator who was intimately familiar with Yellowstone's geography and had the skills to survive in remote wilderness areas for extended periods," she explained to the media. "This wasn't a crime of opportunity. It was planned and executed by someone with extensive outdoor experience and detailed knowledge of the park." The investigation expanded to include a comprehensive background check of everyone with the expertise and opportunity to commit such a crime. Park rangers, maintenance workers, research scientists, wildlife biologists, and seasonal employees were all scrutinized. Anyone with access to remote areas of the park and the wilderness skills necessary to hide evidence so effectively became a potential suspect. One name that repeatedly surfaced in the investigation was Marcus Webb, a former Yellowstone maintenance worker who had been employed by the park during the summer of 2001. Webb, 43 years old at the time of the Anderson family's disappearance, had been fired from his position in late August 2001 for erratic behavior and violations of park policies. His termination had occurred just weeks after the Anderson family vanished, a timing that investigators found highly suspicious. Colleagues described Webb as a loner with extensive wilderness survival skills and an unhealthy obsession with controlling and frightening visitors. Several former co-workers reported that Webb had bragged about his ability to disappear people in the park's vast wilderness and had made disturbing comments about families who came to Yellowstone unprepared for its dangers. His supervisor had noted in his personnel file that Webb seemed to derive pleasure from frightening visitors with exaggerated stories about the park's hazards. Webb had grown up in rural Montana and possessed the outdoor skills necessary to survive in Yellowstone's backcountry for extended periods. He was an experienced hunter and tracker who knew the park's remote areas better than almost anyone. His work assignments had included maintenance of remote trails and facilities, giving him intimate knowledge of the exact area where the Anderson family's remains were eventually discovered. After his termination from Yellowstone, Webb had left Montana and moved frequently across the western United States, working seasonal jobs at various outdoor recreation facilities. His employment history showed a pattern of conflicts with supervisors and coworkers, always related to his inappropriate interactions with visitors and his disturbing behavior around families with children. The FBI launched a nationwide manhunt for Webb, tracking his movements through employment records, Social Security data, and law enforcement contacts. They discovered that he had been arrested several times over the years for minor offenses, always in areas near national parks or popular camping destinations. Most concerning was a pattern of arrests that coincided with unexplained disappearances of hikers and campers in various western states. Webb was finally located living under an assumed name in a remote cabin outside Missoula, Montana. When FBI agents attempted to arrest him, he barricaded himself inside the cabin and threatened suicide. After a tense 12-hour standoff, agents were able to take him into custody alive. Inside the cabin, they discovered a disturbing collection of souvenirs from Yellowstone and other national parks, including items that appeared to belong to missing persons from various unsolved cases. During interrogation, Webb initially denied any involvement in the Anderson family's disappearance. However, when confronted with forensic evidence linking him to the crime scene and timeline of the murders, he gradually began to reveal details of what had happened 16 years earlier. His confession would prove to be one of the most disturbing criminal admissions in the history of the National Park Service. According to Webb's statement, he had been monitoring the Anderson family from the time they arrived at Madison Campground. He had observed their careful planning and preparation, which he interpreted as arrogance and disrespect for the wilderness. In his twisted psychology, well-prepared families like the Andersons represented everything he hated about modern park visitors. People who thought they could conquer nature through planning and equipment rather than developing true wilderness skills. Webb admitted to following the family when they left their campsite on Monday morning, using his knowledge of park roads and trails to intercept them near their planned destination. He had approached them under the pretense of being a helpful park employee, offering to show them a secret trail to a spectacular viewpoint that wasn't crowded with tourists. The family, trusting and eager for a unique experience, had agreed to follow him to the remote location. Once he had led them deep into the wilderness, Webb had revealed his true intentions. He forced the family to abandon their vehicle and hike further into remote areas where their screams couldn't be heard. Over the course of several days, he had subjected them to psychological torture, forcing them to attempt survival tasks they weren't equipped for and berating them for their weakness and dependence on civilization. Webb ultimately killed the family when he grew tired of his sadistic game, using a geology hammer that he carried as part of his maintenance equipment. He then spent considerable time hiding their remains and personal effects throughout the remote area, confident that they would never be found in the vast Yellowstone wilderness. His intimate knowledge of the park's geography and weather patterns had allowed him to scatter evidence in locations where natural processes would gradually destroy or bury any traces of his crimes. The revelation that a trusted park employee had committed such heinous acts sent shockwaves through the National Park Service and outdoor recreation community. Park Superintendent Catherine Williams announced immediate changes to employee screening procedures and visitor safety protocols. Background checks for all park employees were enhanced, and new policies were implemented to ensure that visitors were never left alone with individual staff members in remote areas. Marcus Webb was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder in federal court, facing the death penalty under federal laws governing crimes in national parks. His trial became a media sensation, attracting national attention to the hidden dangers that could exist even in America's most protected natural spaces. During the proceedings, additional evidence emerged linking Webb to several other unsolved disappearances in national parks across the western United States. The trial revealed that Webb had been operating as a serial killer for over a decade, using his positions at various outdoor recreation facilities to identify and target vulnerable visitors. His preferred victims were families who appeared well-prepared and confident, which triggered his rage against people he saw as arrogant intruders in the wilderness. The Anderson family had been his most elaborate and extended attack, but they were not his only victims. Evidence presented during the trial connected Webb to at least 6 other disappearances in national parks between 1995 and 2005. In each case, the missing persons were experienced outdoor enthusiasts who had vanished without a trace while hiking in remote areas. The revelation that a single individual had been responsible for so many unsolved cases fundamentally changed how law enforcement agencies approached missing persons investigations in national parks. Webb was ultimately convicted on all charges and sentenced to death by lethal injection. The verdict brought some measure of closure to the Anderson family's relatives and to the families of his other victims. However, the knowledge that such a predator had operated undetected for so many years within the National Park Service raised uncomfortable questions about security and oversight in America's protected wilderness areas. Michael Anderson, who had maintained his search for his brother's family for 16 years, spoke at Webb's sentencing hearing. "My brother Robert, his wife Lisa, and their daughters Sarah and Jessica came to Yellowstone to experience the wonder of nature together as a family," he said. "Instead, they encountered a monster who destroyed their dreams and our family forever. No sentence can bring them back, but knowing that this killer will never hurt another family gives us some peace." The case prompted a comprehensive review of personnel practices across the entire National Park Service. New policies were implemented requiring more extensive background checks, psychological evaluations for certain positions, and improved supervision of employees who work in remote areas. The changes were costly and time-consuming, but were deemed necessary to prevent future tragedies. The Anderson family was finally laid to rest in a private ceremony at a cemetery in Denver, 16 years after their disappearance. Hundreds of people attended the service, including park rangers, law enforcement officers, and members of the outdoor recreation community who had been touched by their story. The family was buried together, as they had lived and died, united in their love for each other and their passion for the natural world. A memorial scholarship was established in their names to support young people pursuing careers in outdoor education and conservation. The scholarship emphasized the importance of both enjoying nature and respecting its dangers, reflecting the Anderson family's own approach to outdoor recreation. Recipients are required to complete training in wilderness safety and emergency response as part of their educational program. Thomas Mitchell, the ranger who discovered the family's remains, struggled with the psychological impact of his find. He took a leave of absence from the Park Service to receive counseling and eventually transferred to a different position away from fieldwork. "Finding them was necessary," he said in an interview, "but knowing what they went through will stay with me forever. I hope their story helps protect other families from similar fates." Yellowstone National Park today maintains enhanced safety protocols that were directly influenced by the Anderson case. Visitor education programs emphasize the importance of staying on marked trails and being suspicious of anyone who suggests leaving established routes. Rangers receive extensive training in recognizing and responding to potential security threats, not just natural hazards. The park has also implemented a more robust missing persons response protocol. When visitors fail to check out of campgrounds or return from day trips as planned, searches now begin much more quickly than they did in 2001. GPS tracking technology and improved communication systems help ensure that missing persons cases are identified and addressed before they can escalate into tragedies. The remote area where the Anderson family was held and killed has been permanently closed to public access and marked with memorials honoring their memory. The site serves as both a place of remembrance and a reminder of the importance of vigilance in protecting park visitors from human threats, as well as natural dangers. Webb died in federal prison in 2021 while awaiting execution, taking with him any remaining secrets about his other crimes. His death denied closure to families of other suspected victims, but it also ensured that he could never harm anyone again. The investigation into his activities continues, as law enforcement agencies work to solve cold cases that may be connected to his decades-long killing spree. The story of the Anderson family serves as a sobering reminder that evil can exist even in the most beautiful and sacred places. Their tragic fate led to significant improvements in national park safety and security, potentially saving countless other families from similar tragedies. While their deaths were senseless and horrific, their legacy lives on in the enhanced protections that now shield other visitors to America's national parks. Today, families continue to visit Yellowstone in record numbers, drawn by the same natural wonders that attracted the Andersons over 20 years ago. They camp under the same stars, hike the same trails, and create the same precious memories that the Anderson family had hoped to make. But they do so under the protection of safety measures that were born from tragedy, ensuring that the Anderson family's sacrifice was not in vain. The case remains a benchmark in law enforcement training for crimes in national parks and continues to influence policies and procedures throughout the National Park Service. It stands as testament to the importance of never giving up hope in missing persons cases and demonstrates how persistence and technological advances can eventually bring justice even in the most challenging circumstances. Robert, Lisa, Sarah, and Jessica Anderson rest in peace, knowing that their story has helped make America's national parks safer for all the families who follow in their footsteps, seeking to experience the wonder and beauty of the natural world.